Sean O'Malley's unbeaten UFC record came to an end at UFC 252, in part due to this interesting looking ankle or foot injury that he suffered during the fight. Welcome back everybody, I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and this is your #1 source for learning about everything related to sports injuries and sports medicine news. In this video, I want to try and give some additional insight here on what could have happened with Suga Sean O'Malley and his ankle/foot injury suffered here at UFC 252. As always, if you enjoy learning about this unique set of sports, then please consider subscribing to my channel, and also go give me a follow on Twitter for more real-time breakdowns and analysis, and let's get started. Going right to the footage here, the clip that everybody's sharing about when this injury supposedly happened, right here we can see O'Malley plant with that right foot, kind of give a funny little twist to his foot and ankle here, and then as he tries to step forward again, he completely catches his toes, trips over his foot, rolls his ankle pretty substantially, and then of course after that was pretty close to when the fight was ended. If we go back and watch this again one more time, I want you to pay special attention to right at the very beginning when he plants with his right foot. So as he's stepping forward, you can see him plant, shift his weight to that right foot, and then he kind of does this little shift. And you can see as I play it back and forth, how his heel kind of initially goes in and then swings out really quick right there. Based on what we'll talk about in a minute here, it wouldn't surprise me if this was actually the move that caused him to hurt his foot more. I will say too, there was a point earlier in the fight here where O'Malley took this kick to the knee, and then a few seconds later here, he kind of tried to plant, and you can see how he kind of twisted that foot in and stumbled. So it's certainly possible that this earlier sequence in the fight was when something else might have happened, but we unfortunately don't see a view of his foot or his ankle to see what might have happened here. Where this gets interesting is that after the fight, O'Malley supposedly said that this was the same injury that he previously suffered that was ultimately considered a LisFranc injury and required surgery. When we look at our top-down view of the foot, we can see highlighted here specifically the ligaments of the midfoot that make up this LisFranc joint complex. Technically, the LisFranc complex are all of the ligaments that connect the tarsal metatarsal joints, but oftentimes it's attributed to one specific ligament right here that runs between the medial cuneiform and the second metatarsal. But in reality, a LisFranc injury can happen to really anything in this entire tarsal metatarsal joint. Classically, we think of it as an injury to the ligament, this one specifically here that I pointed out earlier, but these can also be fractures depending on how severely the ligament is damaged. Now, you wouldn't think just by looking at this tiny little ligament that it really is all that important, but when we think about the structure of the foot, it's extremely important for maintaining the structural integrity. If we take a cross-section through our midfoot, it looks like an arch. And part of what makes up that structural integrity of the arch is this second metatarsal and this intermediate cuneiform. Now, if we look out at the rest of the metatarsals out here, you can see how all of them have a little ligament that connects those two bones together. But when we get back over to the space between the first and the second metatarsal, there's no little ligament there that directly connects them. And that's why this LisFranc ligament is so utterly important. The first and second metatarsal are held together through this indirect pathway that involves this LisFranc ligament. So there's a ligament that runs between the first metatarsal and the medial cuneiform, and then this LisFranc ligament going from the medial cuneiform up to the second metatarsal. So you kind of have to take this roundabout way to have that structural integrity and support, as opposed to the direct connection that we see between the rest of the metatarsals. Now, if that LisFranc ligament gets torn, then you lose that structural integrity, and that arch of your midfoot can basically just collapse depending on the severity of the injury. Now, a LisFranc injury can occur in a variety of patterns. One is simply just a direct crush onto the top of the foot, but the one we more commonly see in sports is whenever the foot is plantar flexed, meaning pointed downward, and then you get a bunch of load directed from the heel through that joint complex. If I have my foot planted like this in the ground and then push down, or have someone fall on the back of my heel, you get a lot of trauma and energy directed through that tarsal metatarsal joint, which can cause the LisFranc injury. The other way though it can happen is simply from having your foot planted into the ground and then pushing your toes off to try to change direction. So if we go back here to the clip with O'Malley, as he's stepping with that right foot, he plants, and this foot position loads those tarsal metatarsal joints. Then as he goes to sort of feign and change direction here, you can see how he's kind of pushing outward to the side, and then his ankle just completely shifts and pivots, where his heel initially in this position is in, he pushes, that heel kind of swings outward, and this type of a move can cause your LisFranc injury to occur. There's still a lot of unknowns here though, because like I said, a LisFranc injury can involve the ligament, it can be a fracture, it can be a more severe dislocation of that whole joint. So there's this wide range of possibilities, and simply saying it's the same as what he had previously doesn't really explain everything in terms of prognosis and how long he might be out for. It would make sense that this is a LisFranc injury based on what he's told us and based on the footage, but with somebody who kicks as much as he does, yeah, it's possible that there's a fracture to some other part of the bone. It's possible when he stumbled over his ankle again that he caused a sprain to those ligaments. So there's some other pieces here to still figure out with this injury. But that's it for the video, everybody. Thank you as always for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it and learned something here. Let me know any questions or comments down below, and until next time, we'll see you later.